No one could have predicted this confluence of events just a few months ago, beginning with the COVID-19 global pandemic, the ensuing economic crisis, and then the death of George Floyd, and now the seismic street protests for social justice, driving a sea change in public consciousness. CEOs across the corporate landscape have added their voices to the discussion and are determined to use their influence to make lasting change. For over 100 years, the Conference Board has helped the world's leading companies and society at large navigate crises and developed reasoned solutions for our country. Founded amid the labor unrest in 1916, the Conference Board led the adoption of workplace safety reforms, compulsory health insurance, and the 8-hour workday. We were at the forefront of conversations regarding opening the workplace to women, people of color, and people with disabilities. Our Policy Center, the Committee for Economic Development, which I lead, helped shape the Marshall Plan that rebuilt Europe after World War II, as well as the Jobs Act of 1946, which set forth workplace reforms. That tradition continues today with our efforts to shape public policy that impacts our workplaces, communities, and government. Given recent events, the Conference Board is launching a series of CEO forums to foster action called Building a More Civil and Just Society. The CEO forums will feature CEOs from across American industries who will focus on actionable insights to address our societal challenges. And today we are privileged to be talking to Joe Kirchner, who as CEO of Primrose Schools has a lifelong mission to deliver a quality early learning foundation to help children become confident adults. Joe leads strategic direction and external brand leadership efforts for Primrose, including the launch of Primrose on-premises, employer-sponsored schools. Under Joe's leadership, Primrose has grown from 4 schools in Metro Atlanta to nearly 400 schools nationwide. She serves as a member of the Primrose Early Learning Council and oversees the Primrose Schools Board of Directors. Joe also serves on the Advanced Ed Board of Trustees, making her the first individual to represent early childhood education on this 12-member international board. Additionally, Joe is one of our trustees at the Committee for Economic Development and currently serves as co-chair, helping business leaders influence government policies related to early childhood education. Through the Primrose Promise Corporate Social Responsibility Program and the Primrose Children's Foundation, which Joe founded, Primrose Schools has raised and donated more than $5.5 million to charities focused on the needs of children at risk. We are very privileged, as I mentioned again, to have Joe with us today. And Joe, I'd like to really start, given your position, given your activism and your lifelong work on helping children and to develop this foundational basis. I'd just like you to step back and given the events that followed the killing of George Floyd, how would you characterize the social state of our nation? The issues of racism and equity, they're not new, nor is civil unrest that decries them. Do you think this is a different time for America? And is lasting positive change possible now?
You know, Lori, we are clearly experiencing an unprecedented time of chaos in our country. In the last decade, prior to the pandemic, Americans have experienced significant change driven by technology and globalization. Even before this year, the impact to our personal and professional lives has been evolving rapidly, creating wonderful innovations and opportunities, but also a higher level of uncertainty than ever before. Then the global pandemic, our economic shutdown, the disturbing incidents of social injustice and political polarization, along with the minute-by-minute news cycle and constant feed of social media, have brought our citizens to a level of stress unlike any of us have ever experienced. But also, these incidents have provided a moment of greater insight and new perspectives for many people. Across history, there has unfortunately always been forms of racism and inequity. I think and I believe the tragic death of George Floyd was a moment in time, and it can be a catalyst for significant reflection personally and as a country. Most of us aspire for a society that is more just, where we can have quality of life. liberty, and a peace that is sustainable. Now is the time, I believe, for all of us to come together and actively engage in efforts to help impact positive change and, most importantly, sustainable change.
So, Joe, you've been playing a prominent role as president and CEO of Primrose Schools to deliver quality early education to children. And COVID-19 has really shown a spotlight on the disparities that exist in our society. This has been a lifelong passion of yours, and this spotlight that COVID is shining is really raising the attention level. Why is early education so important to success for later in life, and how does early education open the doors for equal opportunity?
Well, we know today that early brain research shows quality early education in the first 5 years is essential to a child's long-term development, Lori. According to the Harvard Center for the Developing Child, more than 1 million neural connections are formed every second in a child's first few years. Children can build cognitive, social, emotional, and physical skills in the first 5 years of life that affects not only what they know, but who they become. That makes early education even more critical in order to prepare them for school, but equally important to prepare them for life. Some researchers estimate that 65% of children entering school today will work in jobs that don't exist yet. Just consider what that means. We must continually innovate and evolve our education delivery models to prepare tomorrow's workforce for this continuous change. To do this, our future workforce has to be curious, collaborative, agile, and resourceful, so they can be flexible, continuous learners. These are the essential life skills that are often developed in the first 5 years of life and have been shown to effectively be nurtured in young children. At Primrose, our success is deeply rooted in the belief who children become is as important as what they know. And our exclusive curriculum, Balanced Learning, balances purposeful play with nurturing guidance for teachers that encourage curiosity, confidence, compassion, and creativity. Following our curriculum, our teachers actually role model as they bring to life hands-on interactive learning experiences that help children develop life skills and healthy habits that they take into adulthood. For these reasons, access to high-quality early education and care for America is essential for children to address the complex issues facing our country today and for the future. If all of our schools were open this fall, 4 million children would enter kindergarten, yet only 20% of them would have access to high-quality early education and care. We know that lack of access can lead to lifelong oppression, racism, and poverty. That's why in order to drive sustainable societal change, all children must have a fair and equitable start. This is an enormous challenge, but we are up to it. We must be. It will require collective engagement from our elected officials, business leaders, educators, and philanthropists to transform America's education delivery framework. For corporations specifically, we are seeing employers have a rising interest in early education and care on site and near their locations. At Primrose Schools, we're expanding our Primrose on-premise opportunities to provide quality on-site early education and care that benefits working families, but it's also a competitive advantage that gives companies an edge in recruiting and retaining top talent.
So you were mentioning what the business community needs to do and what business leadership needs to do. What else needs to be done on the federal, the state, the local level in terms of public policy?
Well, I wish I had the answer to those powerful questions. Most people believe a just society is reflective of our country's founding principles, that all humans are created equal with certain unalienable rights, including life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The real challenge is, what changes do we make and who makes them so that it's a reality for everyone? There are so many people with so many different opinions on these questions, but I believe striving to achieve these founding principles is vital to our economic stability and quality of life for our citizens. One of the most important drivers of these goals is access to quality education for all. We're seeing a renewed and determined focus on providing the next generation a strong foundation through equitable access to quality early education and care, nutrition, and healthcare. You know, America has a rich history of milestone moments where courageous citizens led transformational change needed to become a better society. I believe that change starts with individuals, within their homes, their businesses, their communities, and in their government. We're experiencing a moment in time where we have the unique opportunity to come together and enact change to achieve a society more aligned to those founding principles with equal opportunity for every child and every citizen. The next step in this, though, raises the most important question. With these complex changes all ahead of us, how do we accomplish this?
And Joe, you were saying the role of the individual, and you've had a lifelong, this has been your lifelong mission. You've had a passion for early childhood education. You've dedicated your career to this. What motivated you? How did you, to first recognize the problem, recognize the opportunity and the need, just in terms of your own personal professional development?
Well, as a mother, I went through the same experiences that moms have today, which is looking for high quality early education and care for my children. My husband and I moved away from our families, and there was no relative or close friend that we could turn to with our young children because of his career. So I had to look for quality early education and care, and it was very difficult to find. That was more than 35 years ago. And now today, unfortunately, we still see the shortage in this country. We had a shortage in America before the pandemic, and it's become even more a crisis. Most child care centers across the country are led by small, independently owned operators. And many leaders were concerned before the pandemic began that as the closure started, that many of these child care centers would close, operating on razor-thin margins. They would never reopen. And that is what we are seeing right now today as parents are trying to go back to school with their children. Really, parents in all industries rely on childcare. 65% of children under 6 have both parents or all parents working. Quality education and childcare is essential to working parents, but it's actually the backbone of the American economy. Yet today, quality early education and care still is unaffordable for way too many families. Many Americans live in childcare deserts. That's communities in which the number of children that need access are 3 times greater than the number of licensed childcare centers available to them. And again, this has increased dramatically since COVID-19. We know that most children who are not able to receive quality early education and care in early life literally fall behind in their learning and the development of the critical skills they will need. Often, they never catch up. Early childhood educators make it possible for parents with young children to remain in our workforce. They equip children with skills necessary to thrive in the modern world, and they help yield positive child care outcomes that instill personal and societal, and then also societal growth. These quality centers and educators are critical to the success of a multi-generational workforce and our economy. They support the workforce of today and our workforce of tomorrow. I believe we have the responsibility to empower the potential of every child. Our children are our greatest resource, and they are our best hope for a more just and brighter future for all Americans.
Joe, before we conclude, I really would like if you could also share with us, you're the founder of the Primrose Children's Foundation, which is raising monies to focus on the needs of at-risk children. And again, with COVID-19, schools closed, childcare centers closed, there's a lot of concern about more children being at risk because there are fewer people involved in their lives who can catch a problem. Just tell us a little of what motivated you to start the Primrose Children's Foundation and some of the work you're doing there.
So more than 15, almost 16 years ago now, we at the time probably had 65, 70 schools across the country. And our schools were serving families who could afford to provide their children quality early education. And yet we were seeing, as I've already said, immense lack of access for the most vulnerable, and yet the children who needed those access to those services the most. So engaging our families, our teachers, and the people at our National Support Center, our team, I founded the Children's Foundation for us to do events and initiatives that would raise money so that we could engage with organizations that we could trust that would ensure that dollars were able to really make an impact for underserved children in underserved communities. I'm really proud that we've raised over $5.5 million, and we've worked with organizations like Reach Out and Read, Save the Children, and I'm very proud because in the next few weeks we are giving $250,000 to No Kid Hungry. Unfortunately, in the midst of this pandemic, one of the greatest crises is nutrition. Underserved children who are not in school, home with families that are either furloughed or can't access childcare, they need access to food. And so No Kid Hungry is a wonderful, wonderful organization that is ensuring that children get food. It's amazing the number of children in this country, one of the greatest nations on earth, that we would have children going hungry on a daily basis. So that's the reason we founded the Children's Foundation, because we feel a responsibility to forge a brighter future to all children. It isn't just education, it's nutrition and health, and that's what the foundation is working toward.
Joe, I've seen your passion, I've seen your dedication, I've seen your hard work firsthand as the co-chair of our education subcommittee. And I know how diligently you're working on the child care issues and on the early education issues with Congress, particularly with the devastating impact of COVID-19. So on behalf of all of us at the Committee for Economic Development, the Conference Board, and all of our trustees, I want to thank you for your leadership and everything you're doing. And I want to thank you for joining us today and sharing your concerns and sharing your advice in terms of how we can actually make change. So thank you, Joe.
Thank you, Lori, and thank you for the opportunity to serve on the Committee on Economic Development representing early education. You provide a wonderful platform, but also a place where connectivity to people who can make impact and a voice, an opportunity to express my voice and join with others is really a wonderful opportunity for myself and our organization, and we couldn't be more appreciative of the opportunity. Thank you.
It's our privilege. Take care, and thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.